Hello and welcome to the 42nd episode of When I Was Your Age, a podcast celebrating the careers, callings, and creativity of some friends of mine. I'm your host, Roland Parker, and as always, it is a joy, a pleasure, and a treat to have you here. Today's guest is Bo Miles, and I'm excited to kind of talk with him. He's got a little bit of a Davy Crockett connection, starting out in Tennessee and ending up in Texas. So excited to talk about that. And he's the first person I've had on the podcast that I know from work. So I'm excited to get it started in that way. Before we bring Bo into the stream, I do have a little bit of housekeeping as always. Make sure that you follow the Instagram at WIWYA pod. And thank you guys for the support. Our follower count is 1,544, which is always cool to see that number going up after each episode. If you are here for the first time listening, make sure you give us a follow. You can do that on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Podcasts. And if you want to watch episodes, see our faces up here on the screen, then you can do that on YouTube and Spotify. But that's going to conclude our housekeeping. So we'll bring Bo to the stage. Bo, how's it going with you, man?
What's up, brother?
Nothing much. I just got the girly pops down for bed. They were a little ornery tonight, but they were fine otherwise throughout the day.
That's good to hear. I don't have any little ones running around, so I don't have to deal with it.
Yeah, it's something special. It's funny how you'll like find yourself just longing for them to be in bed, and then like 15 minutes later, you're like, dang, I kind of miss them. I think I'm gonna go get them up right now. So it's funny, like the juxtaposition of feelings that you can go to. So tell me about this past week. What did you get into?
So I just got back from a music festival that we go to. I think this was my got to be 12th year, if not at least 11th. So me and a couple people from work, but also just buddies I've known since. Some of the guys that are going, I've literally known since like first, second grade. But we go out, and it's in Cookeville, Tennessee. So I get to come back, spend a couple days at home. We go out to that festival. Muddy Roots is the name, and it's a blast, man. It's so much fun. I got back earlier today and a little tired. I'm a little swollen, a little beaten up, twisted the ankle at one day, but otherwise I survived it.
Well, we appreciate you coming in after your travels to do the podcast. Any favorite acts that you saw?
Brother, there were some good ones. There's some legacy acts like that we've seen a bunch of times. There's a band called Belushi Speedball that's nuts. It's like a thrash metal band with a big stage performance. They were super cool. There was a band called Blossom and Bone out of Jacksonville. It's a guy and a girl duo with a side piece, but they were really great. Definitely a different genre, not fast or heavy or anything, like just really cool, like kind of laid back bluegrass. It was amazing. Triangle Fire, they're out of Atlanta. They were super cool, but had a great stage presence. I mean, that's a festival, man. Even if I haven't heard of the groups, like if I can go and just check them out, I'm most bands there I'm going to fall in love with. So I've found countless of people that I would say are my favorite bands now, or bands I didn't know until I went to that festival.
Yeah, that's cool. I love kind of experiencing somebody live and then doing like a deep dive like into their discography like after the fact, like, oh, like I never really knew them before, but they had this cool presence on stage and stuff, and then you kind of make that connection and dive deeper. Love that.
That's what
Is
felt
it
this time was there was so many bands that were like I hadn't heard of, but I was like, that's the ones I wanted to see, like that, because it goes all day from basically like noon until midnight. There'll be bands because there's 3 stages and usually 2 of them are going at the same time. There's maybe a 30-minute gap between them.
Sure.
But that, like everything that was going on from like 12 to like 6, I was like, that's what I want to go see, because it's usually local up and coming acts from just surrounding states. Like it's in Cookeville, but like so you get a lot of Knoxville bands, a lot of Nashville bands, Atlanta, next to Jacksonville. There were some people from Florida, the Carolinas, a bunch of people out of Asheville. There was a band called Lips out of somewhere in Kentucky that was awesome. That's the one I forgot. Lips was really cool. I got a bunch of their merch. They were awesome. A lot of
That's
fun.
cool. That's cool. Does it follow any kind of like general theme? I know at like a jazz fest, like sometimes they have a lot of similar acts, but they do venture into different genres as well. Was it one kind of like grouping of music or just kind of a little bit of everything?
Yeah, so when it started at the festival, like I said, I've been every year but one. I think it started, so it would have started, what year is it now? 2024. If I've been there 12. So it would have started 2011, 2010, and it was Muddy Roots. What it originally was it was like a lot of bluegrass and roots music, a lot of rhythm and blues and blues, bluegrass, all that. But it was usually with this like kind of this punk rock spin on it, where it was like younger acts who were doing it. So I've been there and seen like older bluegrass, like Ralph Stanley's played it before, which is cool. You could see some of these old school legacy acts. James Hand had been there; it was awesome. Um, but then there's also this like youth, this up and coming thing that was always a big part of it. So that was kind of where it started with the Muddy Roots being a part of it, was bluegrass and all that. But like they definitely have spun it into it's got its own like punk rock vibe, and they've been including a lot of thrash metal or this like heavy, slow like doom metal and stuff that's been coming the last couple of years. So it's one of those things. If you're into that other side of music, it's going to have a little bit of something for everyone. And then like the group I've been with, there's 10, 12, 15 people that I know that go every year, and you can kind of tell like who's going to what shows, because not everyone's going to catch every single one of them.
Right.
Which is fun for me because there's into so many of the different genres that I always have someone to go catch. I'm not going to any of the shows alone. There's always someone who's like, oh yeah, I want to go see this too. So
nice. That's cool. I like too that that's something that you guys have connected with like over the years, and you've kept going back to. That's such a cool thing. I loved. I've not gone to many, but like senior year, I got to go to Music Midtown in Atlanta, and I went with like a bunch of friends that I didn't know, but this guy that I grew up with, we were best friends and stuff, and he moved away to Carrollton, Georgia. So like all of his friends were going. It was like, hey, do you want to like come along with us? I was like, yeah, sure. Like I'll do it. So it was like, I knew him but I didn't really know like any of his friends, but we were just like bouncing around to like all the different stages and stuff. And it's like, just like the most fun time. Just hanging out, vibing, trying out different music.
It's a great environment to meet new people in, because everyone's there like to see music and hang out and have fun. And a lot of these people that were in our camping group now at Muddy Roots, I might only see there. Like I don't see them other times because they're coming in from out of the country. But like we've kind of built a little community there. And in some years people drop out, whatever, there's life obligations, and then there's other years, that everyone makes it. But we've normally had a group of anywhere from 10 to 20 people that are going to that we know. And it's a relatively small festival. Like I used to go to Bonnaroo back when I was younger.
Yeah.
I think the last year I went, it's probably bigger now, but last year I went, I think it was 110,000 people at Bonnaroo. This festival might be pulling 3,000 to 5,000. So it's not it's not a giant thing like Bonnaroo was, which is nice. Mm-hmm. That's the way I like it. I prefer it that way.
Yeah, a little more intimate that way, I would kind of think.
Absolutely. And that's the thing. These bands that are playing, they're going to see the shows afterwards. So you're walking around and hanging out in the crowd with the band you just watched play.
That's cool.
And you don't have all the problems you have when you get large groups of people like that. You don't have there's not crime. Like I can tell you the years at Bonnaroo, when someone come steal stuff out of our camp while we were at a show, or you'd hear stories of it or whatever. And it's just, when you get something that gets that big, especially it's Bonnaroo, there's a bunch of evil hippies running around acting like they're peace and love, and then they try to steal your wallet later.
Stuff. Yeah, definitely. Well, I definitely could see the appeal, and I can see that you're passionate talking about it, kind of charged up, even though you had a lot of travel. I still kind of riding that experience. I love that. Well, if you want to see maybe some clips on Instagram that Bo has captured from this experience, then you can make sure that you follow him on Instagram. We've got the handle up there on the stream, and we'll have it added in the description of the episode as well. Something I do like to ask everybody is tell me about your username. Is this something that you've had a long time, or is this relatively new to you?
I don't know. I don't know how long it's been. It wasn't my original. So, and it kind of came from, I had it as an old joke that not many people got. I actually had it before. It used to be Old Bullet Fists, which was a running joke from back when I used to work at the Holler in Gatlinburg. We would be working the bar, and it was one of the running jokes where I'd be like, all right, guys, they call me Old Bullet Fists because I'm always firing shots, and we'd be pouring shots up there. And then when I stopped working up there, that didn't like really no one didn't have anything. Like the only people who knew that joke were people that like I worked at the
Yeah.
hall.
It didn't have the same through line.
Yeah. So then like no one really got it. No one understood it. So, and then just over time, like Bo Diddley became, there's people we work with who that's just how they refer to me or whatever. And that's if your name's Bo, you get 1,000 different nicknames. And I've had a bunch of them over the years, but this was one that always kind of stuck and that people liked. And so that's like, all right, I can at least get kind of my name as my handle, even if it does like a nickname.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I probably had that. I moved to Texas in February 2016. So it's probably been 2017, 2018 when I switched it over.
Gotcha. I love that. Well, I think that it fits really well, and it's one that I've been a fan of for a while. All right. Well, I've got some get to know you questions that I like to ask everybody here. So we'll go ahead and dive into those. We've touched on it a little bit already, but where are you from and where do you currently live?
Yeah. So I grew up in Pigeon Forge, Tennessee, Gatlinburg, Sevierville, that whole area, and spent most of my life in East Tennessee. We moved away a couple times when I was younger, but like I said, that was always home. So I was there up until 2016. I spent my whole youth, I went to Pigeon Forge Elementary, Pigeon Forge Middle, Pigeon Forge High School, graduated there, went to UT Knoxville for a couple years for my like undergrad stuff. And then I wanted to get my degree in music business. I've always been in, just a music head, played music and was always all my friends. It was always like we bonded around the bands that we liked, ties into the whole Muddy Roots experience. It's why I have so many of us go to that. And so I had to leave UT because they had no programs for that. So I transferred to Middle Tennessee State out in Murfreesboro, Tennessee. And, they have one of the better music industry programs out there. So I was doing audio engineering for a while, which was really cool. I got to like go in and play with top of the line recording equipment and, learn some of that. And then part of that degree program is you had to take like music business courses to kind of round out your degree. Publishing, doing artist promotion, doing tour management, doing all those different things, which I really enjoyed. I really liked all that. So I actually finished my degree with a music business degree. That was where I kind of put all my focus and attention into. And then when I graduated there, it was like, well, what am I going to do with this? And at the time, all of my professors, and I guess it's probably still a thing, but all my professors, when we were there, Spotify hadn't came out yet. It was just about to launch. And I remember our professors kind of being like, what are you guys doing here? Like everything that we're going to teach you is going away. This whole industry is over with. Like,
oh, wow.
You don't need a record label anymore. You can go record in your basement on your iPhone and put it on YouTube and reach more people than what your album or your record label can get you. So it was like, we'll teach you the old ways, but we can tell you this whole industry is changing. It's all going to be nuts. And so after I graduated, I was like, all right, well, I don't want to go into Nashville. I don't want to do country music. That's what MTSU ultimately was. I hate to badmouth the alma mater, but it's a degree factory for Nashville. Like that's what they're churning out. You're going to go and you're going to do Nashville country. If you don't like Nashville country, good luck. Like that was what they were turning people out to go do. And so I had like some internships, and it just was like clearly with people who I did not click with. We were not looking to do the same style of music. We weren't into music for the same reasons. I was in it for the passion and for the art of it. There was a lot of people there like, I just know I can make a bunch of money writing shitty songs about trucks and dogs. And I was like, yeah, I'm not interested in this. So I went back. I was working at Old Smoky, and we were doing live music at the Distillery every day. And I was like, well, this could be something. I could like just start booking talent for maybe this, and we'll start looking into that. And it was like, well, there's already artists who were the same 3 or 4 that they were picking who were already kind of set in their ways. And so a couple months went by, and me and some of the other guys who've joined the sales team now, we were always talking about, man, it'd be cool if we could go out and like sell this. I think I could go talk about this to other people. And like, I'm really good at selling it here, but I think I could do it elsewhere. So I went and had some conversations with some different folks at that we were working with, and they had opportunities in 4 different markets. It was either going to be Louisville, Kentucky, Atlanta, Georgia, um, Memphis, Tennessee, or Dallas. And I made the joke then. I was like, I don't care what you're paying. I was like, I'm never moving to Atlanta. You can just let that dream go. I was like, I've spent a lot of, because of the music thing, we went to shows. Bands, if they weren't coming to Knoxville, you either had to go to Nashville or Atlanta to see them if they didn't want to
Yeah.
stop in Knoxville. So I've been to countless shows down in Atlanta, and every time we went, something bad happened. There was just always trouble. There was always issues. It's one of my least favorite cities in the country, and so I was like, I'm never going to Atlanta. Don't care. And so I ended up coming and visiting in Dallas and like just checking it out. And we went around and went and saw some of the music venues that I still go to and hang out today. But now that I live here, but I knew I signed a lease before I left. I was like, yeah, this is it. I'm coming to Dallas.
Wow.
I'm going to make this work. And so, yeah, that was February 2016. And I've been here ever since.
That's awesome.
Love
Yeah,
it.
love that breakdown. Well, it's funny too because I've had the pleasure of like hearing like maybe some skeleton of this story before, so I'm excited to dive into it a little more. And like I've already gotten maybe a better picture than I had before, which has been great. That's awesome. So East Tennessee, grew up in Pigeon Forge, and then now in Dallas, Texas. That's so cool. It's funny to me too because for a while, like when I was growing up, I worked at a summer camp in Wears Valley, and it was I had a hard time picturing like Pigeon Forge and Gatlinburg being a place that people like lived in and grew up, because I like could only think of like the Pigeon Forge like strip as like what Pigeon Forge was. Like I had no understanding of that there were neighborhoods and hollers and like all of these areas like tucked away that like you wouldn't really like see. And like that was my very basic understanding. So the first time I like met someone who went to GP or someone who went to like Pigeon Forge High School, I was like, wait, for real? Like it was such a like an odd experience at
I
first.
still hear
And then
that to this day. Like if I have
yeah.
people from work, like if I have customers or someone that goes up there, that when they get back, they're like, "You grew up there? Like where?
Mhm.
Did you live on a go-kart track?" It's like, no, just behind it, back behind it.
Yeah, and I hope that they're respectful in the way in the way that they're talking about it, especially because I don't know, it's where you grew up and everything. But yeah, it was funny like the first time that I started to when I started working at All Smoky and I was in the break room and like all of these people knew each other from high school and stuff. I was like, looking around, I was like, oh wow, like I don't think I ever really understood that this is a full-on community outside of just the tourism. It was a cool way to kind of reframe my understanding of that area.
My Uber driver today was like, she's like, "What were you in town for?" I told her I went to this music festival, and she was like, "Oh, did you grow up here?" We had that conversation, and she was like, "Yeah, I'm from Wears Valley," and I was like, "Yeah, well, one of the guys I went with, a couple guys, they're all from Wears Valley." Said the names, and she was like, "Oh yeah, I live across the street from like their parents' business. I know
Oh
exactly what
my
you're
gosh.
talking about." It's like, yeah, that's that town. Everybody knows everyone. And when I meet people out here and they hear I'm going to a festival, people I've known since second or first grade, they're like, "Jesus, I don't even talk to people from high school anymore." And I'm like, "Oh, well, we're all still tight. We all have it
Yeah.
was a weird bonding thing to grow up there too. Like
Yeah.
no one else understands what it's like to grow up in a tourist town like that, unless they grew up in Branson or something similar."
Sure. Yeah. No doubt. I love that. It's something that like once it kind of clicked for me, it like I said, really changed the way that I understood that area. And it's cool to get that experience and get to work with people who have that. Okay. Got a little sidetracked, but I think it was good. It was good stuff to talk about. Next question: what do you do?
So I'm the division vice president for the Central Southern U.S. for Old Smoky Moonshine Whiskey and Tanteo Tequila and a couple other smaller brands. And I manage a couple states out here in a sales team, work with them, and then we go out and we work with our distributors, work with bars and restaurants and liquor stores, and try to find ways to help them help us and make them some money and help keep growing. And I call it singing the gospel of Old Smoky, because that's what when I came out to Texas, we were calling it was we're going to bring the holler to the nation. That was the idea. That's why I was a good fit for it. Where they're like, this guy grew up in Gatlinburg, grew up in Pigeon Forge. He knows this brand. Like, we got to have someone who's authentically from there to come out and talk about it. And we had a ton of success with that. We've just built on it over the years, as you know. So,
yeah, that's awesome. When we'll dive more into that later. Big theme of the podcast for us is age. Kind of, it's in the name, stuff like that.
Yeah.
But how old are you?
35 years old.
That's awesome. What piece of media are you? What's that?
I said it feels like I'll be 40 tomorrow.
Oh my gosh, yeah. These are the days I feel like, aside from like hitting like the milestones of like rounding out like a 30 and a 40 and a 50, like we've just kind of run out of a lot of like significant birthdays. So it's like, whatever. I had one like just like a month ago, and I was just like hanging out, just vibing. It was like the least birthday I felt like I've had. I was like, all right, that was the day. Like it was just it.
I still go hard for my birthdays. I still celebrate like it's anything. Good. And because that's the thing, I run into people all the time. They've gotten old and they're just like, oh, another birthday. And I'm definitely like, another birthday. Here we go. Like I did a big trip last year. Went to Denver and saw like a band with an orchestra, and like,
oh no,
I haven't quite figured out this year yet, but like, I'm into it. And it happened at this festival I was at this weekend, where I was looking around and I was like, oh, I'm definitely not the kids here anymore. Like, there's a lot of people here way younger than me. Because if I've been there 12 years, that means I would have been going when I was like 23 when I started going. And now I'm seeing the 23-year-olds there. I'm just like, oh, God.
Yeah. I have done that a little bit myself too. It's just like, I think I still kind of don't really think of myself that far removed from college and high school even. So like now, like I go to drop off my kids at my parents' house, and I pass the high school that I went to growing up, and I'm like, these kids look so little. Like surely I didn't look that young. And I did. As I've looked back and found it, but it's funny like how you kind of dissociate like the age that you are, and kind of remove that thought from you until you look up and you're like, oh wow.
Oh man, if I'm anywhere where there's a bunch of high schoolers, I leave. Like I find the exit quick. Like, this is not where I want to be. I don't like going to like movie theaters because I have to like pass through a squad of teenagers. I'm like, I don't like this at all.
Yeah, it can be a dangerous spot to be in. I'm not about to get roasted for whatever shoes I'm wearing. I'm trying to get in and out pretty quick. I hear you though on the movie theater. I don't feel as safe in a movie theater as maybe I once did. But what piece of media are you currently enjoying? So book, movie, podcast, TV show. What are you kind of diving into lately?
That's a good question. We were actually talking about this weekend, and I was getting roasted about it from my buddies because half of them are apparently illiterate. But I read. And what got us started on it is that my local library, Dallas is trying to shut it down, and I've been like having to be a part of the community, be like, don't close our library. I use it.
Yeah, love that.
But I have got away from. Unfortunately, I don't read a lot of like fiction stories. It's I'm reading books that are trying to make myself a better, more rounded person. So I do have nothing specific there that I like want other people to go check out or anything. It's just little things here and there. Podcast, I love the Matt and Shane Gillis, their podcast.
Yeah,
Matt and Shane's Secret Podcast, phenomenal. I've got that when I'm working. It's playing in the background or going on. Big fan of that. Really, there's not much I don't have many shows that I follow. I try to do the Game of Thrones shows. I'd read all those books. I loved all those.
Yes.
And I tried to get into House of the Dragon, and it was like, it's fine, but I'm not enthralled with I could miss weeks of it and catch it when it comes back and be like, okay, cool.
Yeah, I was pretty enthralled with it. The end of. Are you caught up on?
I'm caught up. Yeah, I watched the whole thing.
Nice. Okay. All right. I felt that while the finale of season 2 was a good episode of television, it was not necessarily a good finale for me.
Yeah, the
So
whole time I
I
was like, is something going to happen? Is something
yeah,
going to happen here?
I was
Yeah.
like, oh, this is just like a trailer for season 3. And like it was good. Like I enjoyed watching it. Like there was a lot that was happening, but I felt it didn't feel like a big culmination, like a season of that for me. So I definitely enjoyed it. I'm looking forward to more. But yeah, I'm with you. I just finished the audiobook of Fire and Blood too, which
Oh, really?
so I was
I gave a copy of that to somebody that I need to get back from them.
there's there's a lot of interesting stuff, especially with the new season and whatnot. But
Yeah,
but
but
yeah,
otherwise, I've been going back and I've been trying to watch like older movies that I may have missed that were like classic. Like I just watched Conan the Barbarian, the original one with Arnold
oh
Schwarzenegger.
sure,
I
yeah,
just watched it the other day and it's hilarious. It's so funny.
nice,
I just watched Anchorman 2 last night, which I remember when it came out, I was disappointed. And I watched it last night. I was like, oh my God, no, it's funnier than I remember.
good.
It's awesome. Just watched Tommy Boy the other day. Still so funny. So like I said, I'm going back and trying to revisit some of that.
That's a good idea.
I just found where one of the old Punisher movies. I just found it on one of the streaming services. I haven't seen that in 15 years or something.
Oh
So
wow, yeah.
it's on the agenda.
I definitely burned through the Netflix Punisher series with wow, actor's name is escaping me, but I would
John Barenthal, I think is how you say it.
you've got it. Yep, that's it exactly. But I don't know that I've watched any of the. Is it just one?
There's two.
Original?
So there's the
There's
Thomas
two,
Jane
okay.
one. That's the original. It's got Thomas Jane and John Travolta's the bad guy in it.
Okay.
And it's really good. Kevin, I don't know if you're familiar with, Kevin Nash, the wrestler.
I'm not.
Okay. He plays one of the bad guys in it.
Nice.
Little factoid. That one's really good. It's like that's a well done, like good story. It's it's great. And then there's one called Punisher Warzone, and it's that guy Ray Stevenson. He just was in not the Acolyte, but this last Star Wars series that was out before that.
Ahsoka. Yep. And he passed away, didn't he?
Yeah, he died. Yeah. But it's that guy. He plays the Punisher. But it's hyper violent, like way more gory. So if you're into that style of Punisher, that's the one I'm going to watch tonight because I haven't seen it so long.
Nice.
So it's a wild ride. Yeah.
Excellent. Okay. What is something that you'd consider a luxurious necessity? I kind of think of this as something that blurs the line between a need and a want. Maybe it's integrated in your routine, something you'd never be able to give up, but you could probably do without.
I'm about this. I'm so about this life, about trying to find these. It's also how I buy gifts for people. I always try to go, what is something that you want but you wouldn't buy for yourself? Great. Dude, all over it. I am big on. I like you got to have the refrigerator with the crushed ice. That's like got to have it. So good. I've been looking into automatic blinds. I haven't done it yet, but automatic like the blackout blinds, and then you can set them on a timer for the natural sunlight. Haven't done that yet. It's on the agenda. I have dual shower heads. Like I installed a second one, so I got one in the front, one in the back.
Yeah,
I can't take showers anywhere else. It's the best. Bidets on every toilet in the house. Love it.
Nice.
About that life. I like a nice bathroom. Like I try to upgrade the bathroom any chance I can get. I'm big on that. Nice towels. Like I like a really nice house. Nice comforter. That's all this. Yeah, probably everything that I would consider luxurious is about some form of comfort. It's like, what can I have? It's the next step up for this. I'm not big on like luxury cars. Don't do it for me. I don't like go nuts over cars. But yeah, it's definitely things that make my house cover. Nice lighting. The bulbs that used to be in here, it's kind of dark in this video, but the bulbs that used to be in here made this room look like a Walmart. It was bright white.
Nice.
Couldn't have that. So like even in my living room, I have like they're like stained glass bulbs, so it kind of puts color in the room and stuff. Like little aesthetic things, I think would be what I consider the luxuries.
Yeah, it's the toiletries or like bathroom like adjacent stuff with like the dual shower head and stuff. Like I totally relate to that. Like that is like one thing that will really like make or break like a hotel experience for me is if the if the shower or bathroom is lacking in any way, then I'm immediately like, it's a
I don't
no, boo.
I don't know who designed those bathrooms at the Margaritaville when we stayed there for the National Sales Meeting, but they need to be put in jail. It's insane how terrible those bathrooms were. I was furious every day. There was no door; it was just spilling water all over the place.
Yeah,
It was the worst. I
yeah.
hate it.
It's at mine was like a handicap accessible shower, and it was just like, yeah, it was, there was no like lip like for anything, so it was just like water like going like out into the floor and stuff, which yeah, man, not my favorite shower experience, but you know, I had a fun time nonetheless. It was a
I'll
great.
tell you, anyone who uses the shower here is like, they'll come out and be like, "Yo,
Yo,
I got to do this. I got to do this in my house." I go, I'm telling you,
I could do
it's
this.
it's the move. I miss it when I go to other places. I miss like not having the two streams.
Is it? Do you think that you long for your shower experience more, or your like your own bed experience more when you are traveling in a way?
That's a good question too, because recently, so I had like one of those memory foam mattress pads on my
Okay.
bed that I've had for as long as I can remember, since college probably. And as I've gotten older, I noticed like I was sinking into it more, so it was putting pressure on my knees at night. So I got rid of it and I got like a new bed. And I don't know if I'm quite used to it yet, but definitely I'm real excited tonight because I've been gone for a week and been sleeping in hammocks for 5 of the last 7 days, and then a couch one day, a hotel bed one day. So yeah, I'm real excited to get back to it. But I don't know, man. It's a tough question. I do love my shower, and I've got like I've got my Bluetooth speakers in there, and like
Oh yeah,
like I've got it's an experience.
nice. I
That's
love
tough.
that.
I
Well,
could give you a straight answer. I love them both.
yeah, if I had to pick what I felt like you were saying, I would say the shower. It feels like you're talking about it in a more loving way, but it's a if we don't feel confident about committing one way or the other, that's totally fine.
It probably is the shower.
Let's do it. All right. Do you have any bits that you're doing? So when I think of this, it's like running jokes that you have with yourself. For me, I always kind of resort to, that was my nickname in high school. So if some or jokes that are kind of formulaic in the way that like if somebody says something that applies, it's like that's what she said, or
Yeah,
something like that. Are there any jokes like that you have, or it's a, it doesn't even have to be that formulaic way. Any kind of jokes that you only really tell for yourself or like have with like a specific group of friends?
I definitely use meow instead of now
Oh,
nonstop
right,
for
meow.
troopers. Yeah, like right now, like that.
Yeah.
It's so that is a running thing that I'll do probably until the day I die. That's text anything. That's a running thing. The shredded trucks. I don't know if you've ever that might be a Texas thing. I don't know if they have them everywhere, but it's a company that does obviously industrial shredding for people, but it's called Shred It. Every time I see one of those, I'm taking videos, taking of it, just be like, oh, shred it. That
But
that's huge. Me and Wes have the thing where anytime you can fit in, and boy, are my arms tired. Like the I just flew in joke. I just flew in from Tennessee, and boy, are my arms tired.
boy,
Like
my
throw
arms
that
tired. Yeah, classic.
where I mean, dude, there's so many on that like I'd say most of my day is something like that.
Yeah, I was just down at the animal husbandry building, and boy, are my arms tired.
Yeah, I love the thing from Dumb and Dumber. It's like, yeah, she broke up and she said something about I wasn't listening. I don't know, like that. That's
Yeah, that's good.
I wasn't really paying attention. It's like something about gave me some crap about not listening to her or something. I wasn't really paying attention. Stuff like that. Like I'll do that regularly. So it depends on the day and mood. But yeah, those are all pretty running standards. If I'm always gonna take advantage of them. I've been doing a
Yeah,
thing lately with the Tanteo stickers and stuff, like just tagging anything I can in bars, or if I see a street pole with a bunch of stickers, putting those on them and like sending that back to like the group, being like, "Oh, got him again."
no, the tequila bandit strikes once again. I love that.
Yeah,
Yeah. Uh, so this next question, I'm excited to ask you in particular because we've already emphasized how important music is in your life. I mean, we can see if you guys are watching the video on YouTube or Spotify, you can see the musical instruments in the back there. But what what would you change the national anthem to if you had the opportunity to do so? I kind of think of music that is kind of resides in your playlists, and it could be a serious answer, it could be a silly answer. I don't want to box you in either way. What do you kind of think
It's
of?
without a doubt, it's courtesy of the Red, White, and Blue by Toby Keith, without a
Love
doubt.
it.
And that's a running bit too. Like from our last 4th of July, I was out with a bunch of friends. We got a boat, and like all day, it was just like any chance I got to put it on, we put it on. We went bar hopping afterwards, and anyone that had a touch tunes, like courtesy of the Red, White, and Blue, was coming on. So that's a
Excellent.
bit coming recently. I don't even have to think about it. It's like that's the one, brother.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Well, it's that one of the special things about asking this question is I compile all of the answers into a playlist on Spotify that you can go
Yeah.
and find. So that is available in the link tree in the Instagram bio. You guys can go follow that. You can listen to some Toby Keith from Bo's answer as well as
What's it
everybody
called?
else's. It's called I'll text it to you, but
Yeah. Okay.
it's like the initials of the podcast, so like WIWYA, and then it's like a colon, like rah, and like the
Got it.
American flag and a bald eagle. So I'll text it to you so you've got
Love
it.
it. Was that already
Um,
on that playlist, or is that a new addition?
I think when I went to add it, that someone had provided that as an answer, and I'm
Okay.
trying to remember who it was. If I were to guess, I think that it was William Johnson from the From Way Downtown podcast episode. So it was a group of guys that I went to high school with. They have a sports podcast called From Way Downtown, where they're
I like the cut of that guy's jib. I like him.
yeah. Yeah, absolutely. It's you guys probably get along, but shout out to William for nailing down that answer. We have had some repeats too. So like Freebird has been a pretty common answer.
Yeah.
Um, I feel like there's one more. American Pie was a double
Yeah.
answer before. I
That's
know
an
that
easy way
much.
to go with it. Born in the
Yeah.
USA, I'm sure is probably one that people say.
Mhm. Born in the USA. Also, Born to Run was the last
Yeah.
answer.
If I had to think of like a serious one, like something for America, let me give it some thought here.
Mhm. I don't want to take words out of your mouth too much too, but one of my favorite answers, and if you've listened to the show before, you might have heard this, that one of my college professors, his answer was "This Land Is Your Land" by Woody Guthrie. So
That's a great answer.
yeah, it's a great answer. I think it's my favorite answer I think that I've heard for that question, like in going the serious way. But
There would have to be for me. I would like if I was going to be serious about it, I would pick probably an Elvis or Dolly Parton song. That's two like when I think of like American artists. Maybe
yeah,
Willie Nelson I'd throw in there, but like there used to be a thing. It was like there's nothing more American than like baseball, apple pie, and Elvis Presley.
yeah.
Like so that would probably I would probably have something in that vein. Like I said, Dolly or Elvis would be two that I would put probably into it. But they've got so many songs that can fit it. It'd be hard to pick.
Oh yeah, 100%. I think because of the more recent trailers for like the new NCAA game with Delta Dawn, that's been a big one for me lately. When I kind of think of a lot of just like cinematic like scenes, but then also as like a good national anthem alternative. I like the images that it evokes.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, go listen to Bo's answer and everybody else's too. And then last question, we've touched on it a little bit already, but how do we know each other? Last question for the to get to know you questions. I mean,
You and I met through Old Smoky. I'm trying to think honestly of when we would have met in person because we had probably communicated back and forth prior. It might not have been until one of those sales meetings, honestly.
I think the first time that we met in person would have been the first sales meeting that I went to, which was the one not this past year, but the year before in Gatlinburg. So that was my first sales meeting that I went to. So I'm pretty sure that's when we would have met in person for the first time.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's where we would have met. But you weren't as involved in that one. Like you had a big portion at this last one. Like where you did the presentation, the game that we were all playing and stuff, which makes sense. When were you starting? Like, would that have been right before the last, not this NSM, but the one prior?
I've been in HR since 2020. So this is, year 4 of it. But like that was that first year was the first kind of time that I'd stepped into some of the employee engagement kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So going to be like an HR presence there, at the national sales meeting, that idea kind of first came around at the one in Gatlinburg 2 years ago, and then my a lot since then it has shifted away from HR generalist and more into employee experience kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So it's been, I think that's one thing that's been really cool for Old Smoky for a lot of people, is that because it's a young company, a lot of people have had roles that have evolved in their time of being there, and I think that you've seen that. So maybe
100.
maybe talk about that then. That could be a good segue. Tell me about how, well, like tell me about your experience when you first started out, and then like over the course of time, how things changed and how your relationship with the company changed.
I think one of the best things that I could say about all that I've seen happen over the years is like we have so many different walks of life, so many people with so many different skill sets, and being a young and smaller group of company is like we've been able to put people into roles that they were just naturally going to be good at because of their skill set. Where sometimes you can end up in a job where like you might be good at something, but whatever, all those positions are filled. Do this. This is what we need you to do. Where instead we were able to go, man, you would be really good at XYZ. Let's have you do that. Like, so, I started out at the holler pouring shots. And the reason I got started there was I had buddies who were working up there or had been up there that were like, hey, you're like personable. You know how to talk to people. Like I was already doing sales. So they were like, hey, you could go up here and you could, make good money working up here at the holler. And that was the case, like I was one of the leading people month in, month out for like case sales and everything we were doing. So it was already kind of something that I wanted to do and get into. So I was able to take that and take the sales skills I had, the natural ability I had to talk to people, and turn that into a career. And then as I've moved forward, I've taken on more of a management role and more of a leadership role, and developing a sales person and developing a sales team and taking them and trying to craft them and make them better salespeople or better managers. And that's just like what I was saying before, is like I could go on about each person on my team and tell you what they're really, really good at, what they're better at than like the other people on their team. So there might be a scenario where I go, hey, I need this personality type or someone who's good at this, that they're going to come with me to this event because I know they're just naturally good at it, or that they enjoy it more. Like it's just something, it's not work for them. It's fun. And I think that's one of the better things Old Smoky's been able to do, is put people in roles they genuinely enjoy, to where it doesn't feel like a job. It's something that you can be creative and you can, express yourself in. And I've seen that on not just the sales side, but the marketing side, the HR side, like getting you into the role that you're in was a good fit. And I really think that's one of the better things that the company has done, is it's found ways to, to find everyone's best skills and then put them in a role to succeed with those set skills. It's like, we're not putting a square peg into a round hole. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's something that I've really loved to get to see and get to be a part of. So like let's break it down into maybe a more simple set of blocks. Is you started at the holler, and then maybe take through on like very simple terms, title and like what your responsibilities were, and then like lead into like each of the positions so we can get an understanding of like, because I think that like it's a wow. I love like looking at your story, but I think it's maybe a little more rare for people to get to do now, like just in corporate America now. Like we don't see it as much as maybe at like our parents' generation got to experience. Like they got to work it up like very clearly. Like there was a super like specific ladder that you could follow, but now outside of Old Smoky, I think that there's not a lot of that experience now, which is something that I really value. But like, take me through what
the whole cliche is. Like you hear people all the time be like, he started with a mop in his hand. Like that's the old cliche, and that's what's true, because a lot of those brands and those companies that are now international, global 500 companies, they were starting back then. Like that's the truth. And now they're giant conglomerates and they're monsters. It's like, so it is harder to start at the bottom and work your way up now. Where we were fortunate was I started with Old Smoky in 2012. The brand started in 2010.
Yeah.
So it was like truly getting in at the bottom level. And I remember saying when I was going into sales, I was like, I think you got something here. I was there sitting and I was like, this can work. Like, this is really something that, like, it can be bigger than Tennessee. And the guy that I was interviewing with that was music to his ears. I mean, at the time, because that's why he came on board, he was like, I'm going to make this into a national and international brand. So for him to have someone who was young and saw the same potential, he's like, this is exactly who we need, right? Yeah. We need this person to do it. So I started out, we didn't really have a title back then. It was just like sampler, but I think we started calling each other bar stars. I think that became a thing for a while, and that wasn't really an official title. It was just what we all ran with. And so basically that job was to just pour samples for customers and try to be entertaining and try to make them engage with the brand, give them a memorable experience, something that they could take home and be like, you got to go check this place out. You know, we already knew the product was good. It was already like, everybody loved that, but like, how do you make yourself stand out beyond just that? How do you take that a step further? And so the best thing about when I was working in Gatlinburg too was like the guys that I was working with there were like, we were all, even if we didn't know each other when we started, we all bonded very quickly. And there was an energy there that we tried to maintain where it was like, we're going to be here from, you know, I think the shifts were 4 to 11. Mm-hmm. So we're going to be here 7-8 hours. Like, let's have some fun. And so we were, as much as we were trying to entertain the people that were coming to the bar, we were trying to entertain each other. Like, and I knew if I got one of them to laugh, one of the people that was to my left or to my right or behind me or whatever, if I got one of them to laugh, I knew I had something. I was like, okay, we'll take this and sharpen it up. And so that was truly, it was like fun. And it got like the creative juices going. Like, we were all trying to find new jokes and new ways to make customers laugh and do it. And that just made us all better. We were all more creative, and if we were having fun, the customers were having fun. That was the whole gist of it. And so there was a lot of those guys, like, they stayed around with the company for 4 or 5 years and may have moved on to, you know, other things. And some of them have moved on into the sales side like I did. Not everyone's done that, but there's easily 5 other people I can think of that have done it, that were within the company. So after I did that for a couple of years, it was really after I graduated college, because I was working there in college. And I paid for my senior year of college out of pocket with like the money I made at Old Smoky throughout that whole summer. I was working 6-day weeks there, and I was working another job. Like, I was working 7 days a week trying to save up all the money I could so I didn't have to take out any student loans. Wow. So after that, I moved into a management role there. And I think there was like 8 managers, maybe 7 or 8 managers. Yeah. And then we started from there. It was like kind of what I'm doing now. It was like, all right, now we've got to take in this new, we call them classes. We get a new class every summer where there'd be 7 or 8, you know, new hires, boys, girls, everything, you know, and we had to take them and be like, all right, here's how you can be successful here. And the joke I had back then was, I was like, all right, there's 3 types of bartenders that work here, right? There's the funny bartenders, there's the smart, like, educational bartenders that can teach you about the process of everything, and there's the hot bartenders. And I said, if you're lucky, you're all 3, just like this guy, right? Like, that was the joke to get people to break the ice. But it was like, it was true. It was like, that was the 3. You could see it even when you go back now. You can tell who the funny one is because they got a big group. People are laughing. And you can tell who, like, the good old boy is, who knows moonshine like the back of their hand, and they grew up making it, or their granddad was making it. And then you know who the pretty people are. Like, that's an easy thing to pick out too. So I don't think that's changed. But it was a way to make people comfortable and go, hey, anyone can be successful up here, but have fun. So did that. We created a lot of good people out of that. And some of the guys that went to Muddy Roots with me this weekend were guys that, like, got hired on that I coached, and then, like, we became friends while we were working there. So did that for a while, got into the management thing, and that's kind of where I knew I was hitting the ceiling there. It was like, when I looked up, I was like, there's nowhere for me to go. Like, this is management kind of from here, what's next? Because it was not the same company that it is now. It was much smaller. And that was when the sales side came in, and I'd always wanted to travel anyways. That was a part of, like, what I was planning to do. And so that all came together. So I moved to Texas, moved to Dallas. I was the territory sales manager for DFW. So the first year I was out, it was just Dallas-Fort Worth. It was like, that was the area I was going. So 5 days a week, driving out, seeing liquor stores, seeing bars, talking to them. And then because I'd been doing tastings at the distillery, I started doing tastings in liquor stores on the weekends. So Fridays and Saturdays, I'd set up a little table, and do some version of what I was doing in Gatlinburg.
Yeah, I would think
I got to
lots of
tell people,
transfer of skill, like it's slightly different environment, but you were still able to take some of the skills that you had from the distillery and apply them in the liquor store.
yeah, and I knew how to adapt it. You couldn't do what you were doing in Gatlinburg in a liquor store. People would look at you like you
100%.
were crazy, but you could do a little bit of it. And so I would wear my overalls that I wore in Gatlinburg out to the liquor stores. And I still, to this day, I mean, we just did a festival in San Antonio a couple weeks back that every retailer that came up at the thing was like, "Where's your overalls? What do you do? Why don't you have overalls?" So like people still remember that. And so, but it made me stand out too with against all their other tastings, because every other brand, they weren't having their own sales rep come out and do tastings. They were just hiring a promo company to come out and do tastings who didn't care. They were on their phone being like, "Hey, do you want to try some tequila?" "No." "Okay." And doing their own thing. They weren't trying to do it. And I would come out and live the brand and talk about it. So the liquor stores, they started to grow a huge affinity for me. They're like, "Hey, we want you in here every weekend because like you're actually doing something, and people are remembering you. They're coming back and asking, 'Hey, where's the moonshine guy at? Is he not here?'" And they're like, "Oh no, he was just here Friday," or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And originally when I moved to Dallas, I was trying to already weasel my way into another thing. I was like, "Hey, what about Austin? Like, is that on the table?" I was like, "Dallas is cool, but like, I really like Austin. It's Music City, USA." And my boss at the time was like, "Tell you what, like, let's do a year in Dallas, and if it goes well, we'll move you to Austin, and then you can run all of Texas from Austin. That's the center part of the state." And I was like, "Cool, love it, let's do it." So we start going out. Things are growing, and it's again, people did not believe in it at first. Like, our distributor was definitely like, when they saw me come in, it's an important part of the story is I had hair down past my shoulders, all curly hair.
Did not know that. I
I
love
was
it.
in overalls, and they're like, "This is your solution. This is what you guys are going to do."
This is your guy. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, there's a lot of like, "Sure, okay," and then 6 months into it, they're like, this is the best. Like, we're so happy to have him here. And so after a year, when it was like, "Hey, what do we want to do with Austin?" It was like, "We don't go to Austin because we don't want you to run Texas. We want you to run this like region. We want you to start doing more than just Texas." And I was like, "Okay." So then the next role for me was I don't remember the exact title, but it was like an area manager. It wasn't region manager, but it was something like that. Maybe it was like district area, something like that. And I was picked up the whole state of Texas now. So I'm over all of Texas, not just DFW, and Oklahoma. So started doing that, kind of the same job that I was already doing, just a larger territory. And it got to a point where I was like, "Hey, I can't develop Houston or Austin or San Antonio or Oklahoma City or Tulsa if I can't be there more than once a month. I don't have the budget to travel around like that, and like you need to be there. You need to be able to like build relationships with these key accounts."
100%.
So they're like, "Yep, we agree. Let's hire some people under you." So I hired a guy in San Antonio, hired a guy in Oklahoma City, and they were kind of the first reps that I worked with a small team. And we did that so that'd been 2018. Did that for 2 years. And then
is that the first instance of you now managing people like in that kind of role? Okay.
Yep. Yeah. And we have still one of the guys is still around. And like I said, we've got a really tight team here. Again, we've built another thing where it's like, we got to have a good group of guys where it's like, we all have to work together and we all can hang out and still have fun even after work. But it's like, we all also expect high quality work. Like, and if you can build something like that, that's how you get really good results out of everybody. It doesn't need to feel like work all the time. And I'm constantly trying to beat my guys' head of like, "Hey, we've got it great. Like, we sell moonshine for a living. Like, we sell tequila for a living. Like, we're not selling solar panels, or we're not going to the office every day. You're driving around listening to podcasts. You get to go out and talk about something that's so fun. And you've got a great product too. I've sold not great products. It's not fun. But when you've got something that's as good as what we've got, it's like, yeah, this is a blast." So did that. And then December 2019, right before we started going into 2020, was when we did kind of a realignment, and they gave me my first like region. So I had Texas, Oklahoma, and I picked up Louisiana and Arkansas. Okay. And that's when I picked, and then my team got a lot bigger, a lot quicker, because we hired for Houston, we hired for New Orleans, we hired for Little Rock, and Oklahoma City we still had. And then it was like, well, we need to start looking at potentially putting someone in DFW behind me, because I'm going to be traveling to all these different markets.
Sure. Yeah. So
did that. Then COVID hit. Like, I took Louisiana and Arkansas over and January of 2020, March of 2020, I was on Bourbon Street, like down selling to bars in New Orleans on
Oh,
Bourbon
wow.
Street. I got the message that they just canceled the NBA. And we were like, oh, that's not good.
Yeah.
This is not
Yeah.
And then by the time I got back to Dallas, it was like you turn on the news and they were basically like,
Everything's down.
for whatever reason, it was like New York, LA, and Louisiana. Like that was the other one. It was these two biggest cities of the country. And they're like, in New Orleans, they're destroyed. It's over with. Like the news back then was so apocalyptic. So I was like, oh no. So I had to like quarantine, and then when we had COVID and all the things that came with that. But we kept fighting. Like we kept growing during COVID. I was hired. I remember running into other suppliers, and they were like, "Man, how are you guys doing?" Like we had to let go. This so and so and this. I was like, "We're hiring right now." Like I was like,
we're hiring. Do you know anybody? Like we're still bring them on. Yeah.
Yeah. So it did that up until this year, and then this year we did another realignment restructure, and that's when they put me over the whole Central Southern Division, and picked up Colorado and some more salespeople, and it's been a good move. Like it's allowed us to put a lot more focus, on our markets, where it was like before we had, we might have had some people with 10, 15 states, and it's like you're going to keep up with the top 5, and then what's going on in those other ones, it's on the back burner. So the restructure we did kind of allowed us all to put a lot more focus and attention on things. So it worked out really well.
Yeah, love that. And so it just as a background, like if you're listening to this and you don't know Bo, like you're like, okay, like Bo seems like a pretty like confident person and like competent in what he does and everything. But I've gotten the privilege of getting to work with him too, and see him kind of engaging with folks like at these national sales meetings and stuff, and presenting information and things like that. And he talks the talk and he walks the walk. So what I kind of want to know is I think of sales as people who generally are pretty confident, but what was something that was uncomfortable about stepping into new roles or assuming a lot of responsibility at once? Like just tell me about that. There had to be something that was maybe hard to get used to at first.
There's absolutely always that voice of like, am I ready for this or am I not?
Mm.
And I've been very fortunate to have leadership around me that was able to recognize it in me and be like, you're going to be good at this. Like, and it always was the thing of like, because you're nervous is because you're going to be good. That's why you'll be good, is because you care enough to like prepare like for these things. So there was always that like that. Am I ready for this? Am I cut out for this? And then I'd start going and doing it and going, oh shit, I am good at this. I still have it to this day. Like if I get, because so much of my job now, I'm working on emails, and I'm working with like people I'm dealing with on the phone. And like, I may not be out face to face every single day with a customer like I used to be. But then when I go out and do it halfway through the day, I'm like, oh yeah, I forget. Like I'm really good at this. Like, I know how to talk to these people. And like, again, it's not even that it's that I'm good. It's like we have so many good products and such a good thing going. It's like there's no reason for them not to buy it. So
Yeah.
I don't think I was ever nervous at the hauler. That's why I picked that up right away. I was excited to get in front of people and get up and talk and do my thing. That was always good. Definitely, I think the only time I would have really been nervous truly was like when I first started in the sales role and was going out into like liquor stores and just cold calling on people who didn't know you at all. Again, I wasn't from Dallas, so I was just walking to stores. They'd never seen me before, and I was like, "Hey, I'm with Old Smoky." I remember at the time, because like we weren't who we are now. I remember people seeing my shirt and I had an Old Smoky logo, and before I could even say anything, they'd go, "Old Smoky, you can get the fuck out of here." And I'd be like, "Hold on, like hear me out, brother. Hold on, let me talk to you for 5 minutes."
Really, people would like be that obstinate to you about
Absolutely. Yeah.
Wow.
There was days when, and like, I also didn't know what I know now. Like I was literally back then, I was just going into Google Maps on my phone and I just type in liquor store and I just go to liquor store. There was no like, well, is this where like our customer is? Is this where our brand's going to fit?
Sure.
Like, it was just like, there's 10 stores here. I'm going to go see all these guys and see what I can get done.
Okay.
And I think that was a good thing, because there was stores that like our distributors, like, you got no business going there. They're never going to buy Old Smoky. And now some of those accounts that they said would never buy Old Smoky are some of our best accounts in like in the city or whatever. So you never know. You can't like stereotype or anything, that kind of stuff. But like, there was definitely back then. I had some really rude people, and there's some of those guys now that like are friends that the first time they met me, they're like, Jesus, get out of here, man. But I was definitely nervous about that. And I remember calling one of my distributor reps one day and telling him what store I'd just been in. It's like, hey, they're going to bring in this, they're going to bring in that. And he was like, wait, where are you at again? And I told him, and he was like, hey, you don't need to be there. He was like, he was like, it's 5 o'clock or whatever. He was like, do not be there after dark. Like, drive away now. And I was like, really, is it that bad? And he was like, yes, it's that bad. Don't be there. So
man, that's wild. Well, and like in defense of how they probably felt at the time, there's no way you could have known exactly like how big the brand would have been. And I'm sure that they probably experienced too, like several people who kind of swaggered in and was like, you guys aren't going to believe this, this brand that's coming up. And like, they've had a million of those that have just poo-pooed out.
I say it all the time, man. That's one of the things that I was like, I don't have to be the best salesman. I just got to be better than those other guys. And like every time they deal with a bad salesperson, when you come in and you're one of the good ones, they'll be like, thank you, God, for being competent. Like, thank you for just doing what you say you're going to do.
Love
it. And it's a huge piece of it, man. And again, there had been a rep from Old Smoky that had not been there for maybe a year. So no one had been working the market and talking about the brands for over a year. So I was also going into situations where I had no control over that. They were like, well, the last rep came in here and he promised me this and this and that and the other. And I'd be like, well, that wasn't me, brother. I'm sorry. But then you got to go up against that. And I get it. I get why they were upset. That's also why they were willing to work with me, is that I would be empathetic to the situation and go, I hear you. I know that I would be upset too. Here's why stuff like this happens. Here's what I'm going to do to make it right. And we'll work together. And and that's how you build trust, and that's how you build anything. I try to coach my people on it. I was like, you're gonna run into stores, you're gonna run into a buzzsaw every now and then. You're gonna walk into a store that's like, oh, look who it is. I've been waiting for someone from Old Smoky to walk in here.
Well.
Exactly. So you're gonna run into that every now and then, but it's all about how you handle it.
It's 100%. I think that's something that I'd find really intimidating is in stepping into, and really any sales role is like, one, the cold calling, like you mentioned, but then also just going in and getting your head chopped off for something that maybe somebody else did, or maybe you did, or something. Like I feel like I'd get in my car and like, all right, next one, I guess. Like it's no choice but to.
You can't let it bother you. You can just laugh about it and send a bunch of silly Snapchats to your friends. That's what I always did.
Nice. Love it. Well, tell me about, like, it's obviously you've mentioned the collaborative kind of piece with it in coaching folks, and like the team that you get to work with alongside each other too. Where do you look for inspiration, like when it comes to your work? Like I would think that being a part of the team, and especially a brand that you believe in, that's got to be a motivating factor. But like sometimes you just need the extra juice from somewhere else. So like what is that to you?
It's a good question. And I think it's just I've been fortunate, man, that I really did get to come up under like some really, really great, bosses and leaders. Like I really can't say truthfully that since I've been at Old Smoky that I've worked for anyone that I didn't get along with, or that I thought wasn't doing things correctly. Like there's even if there was like something that happened that made my life a little harder, it was always like the right decision that needed to be made. And so like I think I've just always tried to adapt. That was like and kind of follow in the footsteps that were laid out before me. So I think if I was going to say it was what was inspiring, it was just like I didn't want people to come up behind me in a worse scenario than what I came up in.
Yeah.
So I tried to, and I do take it very seriously. I've told my team is like one of the things that I take the most seriously is developing and like making sure that they're learning. And unfortunately that's sometimes you got to force people out of their comfort zone. And I've told my teams, like, when you come on, just know, like, there's going to be days when I'm going to put you in this scenario that it's going to be something you don't want to do. But I promise you, I would not be doing it if it wasn't in the best interest of yourself, like in making you better at something that you might be struggling with. And it's like, I got to force you out of the comfort zone. And I had to do it. Like I said, going around and seeing those stores with no leads, it was just go and figure it out. Like that wasn't comfortable, but I got better because I did it. Yeah. So like I said, I can't think of like anything necessarily that jumps out as that was super inspiring me, other than like I said, I came up with some of the best leadership that you could ever ask for, and good coaches and people who were willing to offer advice, you know, and were willing to also have a tough talk with me if I was doing something that wasn't right. Like that, they weren't afraid to be like, "Hey, you're really good at X Y Z, but like because of this, you're blind to this other thing
Mm,
that you might not be good at." And if you don't have that either, it's real easy to stagnate, or it's real easy to like just fall into the same habits and maybe not grow.
yeah, 100%. Oh, that well, I think that it's been really fortunate for you on your side that you've had these folks that you can rely on to help coach you and grow you and develop you, and you've been able to in turn to provide that to other folks too. Um, it's we're coming to the end of the time here. I've run out of questions, but what's really fortunate is that I asked our previous guest to ask a question to you, and I'll ask you to do the same after you do that. So Jack Carlisle was on the previous episode with episode 41, and he, like I mentioned, has a hot sauce business. So his question is, what is your favorite pepper?
Oh man, that's he could have picked a better person to lead with that question too.
All
I'm
right,
a
take me
hot
through it.
sauce fiend, and
Okay,
I go to hot sauce festivals. I bet I've got 200 hot sauces in the kitchen right now.
love it.
Um, but I've actually, and I've this isn't me just pulling this out. Like I've thought this through already.
Okay,
Like this is a loaded question, loaded gun on this one. I'm absolutely habaneros all the way.
okay,
I was for a while like I wanted to go. What's the hottest I can get? I want to have all that. And
yeah.
now that I've traveled and I've had all the different sauces and I've had all these different ones, like we just, oh man, we just had a liquor that we infused this weekend with Pepper X, which is now the hottest pepper in the world.
Oh, whoa.
So it was like liquor with that down in it.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
it's a ride, but like we just did that this weekend at the festival.
Oh my gosh.
But I've tried them all. I've had ghost pepper, and I like it's good. Jalapenos are great. I do love like if you do stuffed jalapenos, I'm gonna eat all of them. You're doing any kind
Yeah,
of
a
baked
billion.
wrapped jalapeno and that, I'll have all those. But as far as if you're gonna use it for a sauce, habanero is the most versatile. I've had so many good habanero sauces. Any of these pineapple habaneros are amazing. Ryan got me this. It's a pineapple sweet potato habanero sauces. Sweet potato habaneros. It's
Whoa.
amazing.
Yeah,
Super good.
I can see that right away.
Blueberry
That'd be
habanero
so good.
sauces. It's just versatile. It's the right
Yeah,
amount of heat. It's not going to be like too much. It's not going to be too crazy. So I'm 100% habanero. Easy answer.
nice. Love that. Yeah. Well, Jack, there you go. There's your answer from Bo. Well, Bo, I want to in turn give you the opportunity to ask a question to the next guest. So, what is something that you'd like to ask for whoever comes next? Is there a question that you kind of go to if you want to get to the root of somebody's person, who they are?
Yeah, it's a question that I was asked at a young age, and it like stuck with me. I was actually a taxi driver of all people, but it was like, what are you more motivated by, fear or love?
Oh, wow. Okay. So, well, tell me about the context of him asking you that.
Well, I was young. I was like freshly out of high school, and I was about to go to I was visiting a school in Orlando. It was like an art school, which, whew, man, thank God I didn't go because I'm pretty sure they lost their accreditation. It was going to cost me
Oh,
like 70 grand a year. But at 18, you've got no concept of money. It was like,
oh yeah.
yeah, so what? That's the cost of doing business. Um, and he was like really digging into my bit. Like he was like, why are you going to school here? Like what do you want to do? And what are you going to do afterwards? And like, it was like, it was, as a young kid, I didn't want people questioning my decisions. It genuinely like pissed me off. I remember sitting in the back of the staff and be like, who's this guy? Like, why are you asking me all these questions?
Yeah.
Like, like, leave me alone. Like, what is your deal? But like hindsight, you look back at it as an adult and go, yeah, he was 100% right. Like, what he was asking me was, he was like, it sounds like you want to go here and spend a bunch of money, but you have no reason, no idea why. And
Mhm.
he kind of said what my teachers ended up saying down the line, which was like, if you love this so much, just go do it. Like, why do you need this? Like, why
Yeah.
are you going to go spend 75 grand a year or whatever it was like to go do it? Um, and that was like one of the things he left me with was he was like, just think about like with your life, like what motivates you more. is it fear or is it love? And it was like, is it fear of failure, or is it because like you love what you're doing, or
Hmm.
whatever it was? And I think I've kind of stuck with me, where it was like, well, I genuinely like enjoy what I do, and I enjoy the people I'm around. Um, and I think it's a much healthier way, but I could see an argument for, other things
Yeah.
too. It's like, fear of failing. If you've got a family, if you're a young guy starting a family, and it's like, I can't let them down. Like I could see that side too, So I think it's a good question to ask people, and the answers are usually pretty interesting. So
Nice. I like that a lot. Well, I'm excited to ask it for whoever comes next. Thank you for giving it to me. Um,
yeah,
well, Bo, is there any thoughts or any other comments or questions that are kind of bubbling up to the top of you for you as we're wrapping it up for the episode?
no, man, I think we covered quite a bit. Uh, you know, if you are into any kind of bluegrass, go check out Blossom and Bone. They're fun. I think you might
Blossom and
like it.
Bone. Blossom and Bone. Yeah, we got to go check them out. Well, that is going to conclude episode 42 of When I Was Your Age. Big thank you to Bo for taking the time to join us on the pod. Thanks for joining and making it this far, and we'll see you guys in the next one.
Right on. Thanks, brother.